In this video, we'll take up the homework sheet on operations with rational expressions. So for the first question, you're just multiplying expressions, or multiplying rational expressions. So factor in order to identify what are the common factors between the numerator and denominator, and then simplify, and of course, don't forget to state your restrictions. For question 2, not much to say, very similar to question 1, but now you're dividing rational expressions. So what I would do is just factor first and then take the reciprocal, and exactly what you did for question 1. So I actually forgot to do question 3, and I just did it, so I'll go back to number 3 after. So let's do 4. So question 4, the factors in the denominator of question 4 are basically the same. You just have to factor out -1 from one of them. And remember, it's basically like adding by negative or subtracting by negative. So it actually ends up working out really nicely. All right, so I'll let you take a look at number 4. All right, so I'm finishing off number 4. And then we have number 5. Now number 5, you have a square cardboard, and then you cut such that one of the flap is doubled up. It's double thickness because they wanted extra strength, no problem. So anyways, you end up with the dimensions of 60 minus 4x, 60 minus 2x, and x. And of course, length and width are interchangeable. So using the dimensions, you can find the volume or expression for the volume and an expression for the surface area. And then, because you want the dimensions to be positive, so you need the length, width, and height to all be positive, you'll notice that the x has to be greater than 0, of course, but at the same time, it has to be less than 15. Because if you look at 60 minus 4x, you can't let x be greater than or equal to 15. You can't cut too much out of the corners because there's just not enough cardboard for you. So x has to be greater than 0, but at the same time less than 15. For question 6, we're just simplifying the expressions. So they look like they're the same. They simplify to x plus 2, but they're different. Okay, the expressions are ultimately not the same. They're not equivalent because the restrictions are not the same. Question 7 is interesting. You're basically using the fact that distance is speed times time. So you build an expression for Joe, build an expression for Jimmy, and then using the fact that speed is distance over time, you can sub in the distance for Joe because they've caught up to each other. You can clean it up a little, and then the restriction is t is greater than 0. And then for part C, you can let t equals, if Jimmy caught up in half an hour, then the speed would be, he would need to travel at 320 thirds of a kilometer per hour. Okay, that works out to be like 107, I think. Anyways, it makes sense for Joe's expression. The hardest part, I think, is this first part, where it's 80 times all of t plus 1 over 6, because Joe's time is greater than Jimmy's time, because Joe leaves 10 minutes earlier, which is 1/6 of an hour. So you take Jimmy's time and add by 1/6, and that gives you Joe's time. And aside from that, everything's pretty straightforward. Okay, so now we're going back to question 3. So question 3, you're adding and subtracting by rational expressions. Factor denominator to establish what the lowest common denominator is, and then you know what is the missing factor. You need to multiply the numerator by, and then that's it. You're just basically finding the building blocks. Okay, it's just like working with rational numbers. Okay, I ran out of space for 3D, so I didn't copy the question, but yeah, everything works out to be the same as A, B, and C. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too bad. Some of these questions do take a while, but wait until you get to the review package.